My name is Sienna Preston, 34 years old. Last Sunday, my mother looked straight at my 8-year-old son and said with a sweet smile, "Theo, honey, the dining table is for grandchildren who actually belong in this family. You can take your paper plate to the back steps. That's where the extras eat." 13 adults and his 3 cousins watched in silence as my little boy clutched his broken Spider-Man backpack, walked outside alone, and sat on the hot concrete steps eating cold deli ham while they laughed inside on china plates. When he got home, he crawled into my lap, trembling, and whispered through tears, "Mom, why does Grandma hate me?" I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just picked up the thick manila envelope my father's lawyer gave me 6 weeks ago, looked at it for a long second, and said quietly, "Baby, Grandma is about to lose everything she loves most." If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Now let me show you how one quiet man destroyed his wife's perfect life from the grave. For 4 years, it has been just the two of us. I am a dental hygienist at Marietta Family Dental Group on Roswell Road. I make $58,000 a year. I drive a 2017 Honda Civic with a cracked left taillight I keep meaning to fix and never do. We live in an 850 square foot apartment in East Cobb. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. A kitchen with a coffee maker my father bought me the Christmas before he died. Theo and I have a Saturday morning routine. He draws Captain Pebble, his own comic book series. At the kitchen table on a sketchbook, he reinforces himself with washi tape. Navy blue washi tape, because navy was Grandpa's favorite color. The Saturday before everything turned, I sat across from him with my coffee and watched him add a new page. His tongue stuck out the side of his mouth the way it always does when he is concentrating. He looked up. "Mom, do you think Captain Pebble's dad would have liked him?" I told him yes. I told him Captain Pebble's dad would have loved him. I did not tell him I had checked my bank balance an hour earlier and seen $213. I did not tell him rent was due in 9 days and child support from his father had not come yet. I did not tell him I had skipped 2 of my own cleaning appointments to keep his pediatric checkups paid. His backpack was on the floor by the door. The Spider-Man backpack he had loved since kindergarten. The zipper had broken in September. I had been holding it shut with a small gold safety pin for 7 months. Every payday, I told myself, next paycheck. Every paycheck. Something else came first. Theo finished his page. He held it up. "Aunt Tatum's house always smells like new shoes," he said. "Why?" I smiled at him. I told him I did not know. The question stayed in my head all morning. Because I did know. I had always known. I had just never wanted to say it out loud. My sister Tatum lives in Buckhead. She is married to Roman Whitlock, an orthopedic surgeon at Northside Hospital. She has 3 children. Hadley is 14, Bryson is 12, Easton is 10. They go to Lovett School, which costs $31,000 per child per year. Tatum does not work. She tells people she is the steward of the Preston legacy. My mother is the founder of that legacy. Vivienne Preston, 67 years old, chairwoman of the Marietta Junior League for 13 consecutive years. Deacon supporting at First Baptist of Marietta. The woman who teaches Wednesday night Bible study and posts Blessed Grandma reels every weekend with hands raised to the sun. She has hosted the Preston Family Sunday Brunch for 22 years. Linen napkins embroidered with the monogram VAP. White carnations. A Bible verse printed on every place card. In all those 22 years, my place card has been hand-printed on plain paper twice. Theo's place card, when he had one at all, was always at the end nearest the kitchen pass-through. Twice, my mother forgot to print one for him. The last family Christmas portrait hangs in her hallway. Hadley, Bryson, Easton, the 3 blonde cousins, standing in matching sweaters. Theo had been in that photograph too. I have the original on my phone. The version on her wall has him cropped out at the edge. When Theo was 6, he asked me why he was not in the picture. I told him the photographer must have taken it while he was in the bathroom. He believed me. He is 8 now. I do not think he still believes me. Sunday morning, April 26th, my phone rang at 9:38. My mother almost never calls me. She uses the family group chat, the one she removed me from in January. So when her name flashed on my screen, I sat up. "Sienna, sweetheart," she said. Her voice was warm. "Why don't you let Theo come for brunch today? Hadley's been asking about him. He needs some Preston family time." She had never used the phrase Preston family time with me before. My hand stopped on my coffee cup. I said yes. I said yes because I had been waiting for a signal. I had been waiting for her to do something, anything, that gave me a reason. The envelope was already in a leather binder on my dining table. I had been studying it for 6 weeks. I told Theo to put on his good shirt, the blue one with the white buttons. I told him Grandma had invited him for lunch and that Hadley wanted to see him. He nodded the way he always nods when he is about to be brave about something he does not want to do. We drove the 14 miles to her house in East Lake, 3 streets of dogwoods and bricks and circular driveways. Her house is 4,000 square feet of yellow brick and white columns. She has it photographed every spring for the Junior League newsletter. I parked at the curb. He climbed out with his Spider-Man backpack on one shoulder, the safety pin glinting in the sun. "You'll be back at 3, I told him. "I love you." "Love you, Mom," he said. He walked up the brick path alone. What I am going to tell you next, I learned from 3 sources. From Theo. From my mother's next-door neighbor, a 73-year-old retired schoolteacher named Geneva Whitcomb. And from the iPhone Geneva had been quietly holding on her sun porch from 12:38 until 1:35 that afternoon. The dining room table had been set for 13 adults and 3 grandchildren. Wedgwood china for 13. 3 smaller settings at the foot of the table for Hadley, Bryson, and Easton. There was no place setting for Theo. He stood in the doorway with his backpack on his shoulder for a long minute. My Aunt Marielle, my father's sister, the only person at that table who has ever truly seen me, saw him standing there. Her face changed. She started to stand up. My mother walked out of the kitchen. She was carrying a paper plate. The kind you buy in packs of 50 at Dollar Tree. White with a hydrangea pattern around the rim. I would later find the receipt. $4.99. Purchased the Thursday before. She had planned this for 3 days. On the plate were 2 slices of cold deli ham, 1 square of cheddar cheese, and a piece of dry white bread. She set the plate down on the kitchen counter. Not the dining table. The counter. She knelt in front of Theo and put her hand on his cheek. Then she straightened up, turned toward the dining room, and said it loud enough for every adult at that table to hear clearly. "Theo, honey, the dining table is for grandchildren who actually belong in this family. You can take your paper plate to the back steps. That's where the extras eat." The pause between the word grandchildren and the word actually was a 1/4 of a second long. It was the most deliberate 1/4 second of my mother's life. My Aunt Marielle opened her mouth. "Vivi, what are you—" My mother spun toward Tatum. "Tatum, honey," she said brightly, "did you bring out the rosemary chicken yet? It'll go cold." Tatum stood up. She walked into the kitchen. The sliding glass door at the back of the dining room was open. Marielle closed her mouth. Theo picked up the paper plate. He picked up a plastic cup that had been set beside it. The cup held tap water. Not sweet tea, not lemonade, not even ice. He walked through the dining room, past Hadley, who looked up for 1 second and then back at her phone, past Bryson, who was laughing at a meme on Easton's iPad, past Holland Preston Wakefield, my distant cousin, whose hand froze on her fork. He pushed open the sliding door. He walked out onto the back steps. He pulled it shut behind him. 8-year-olds know how to close a door softly when they have just been humiliated. Outside, the sun was at 77 degrees. The concrete steps were warm. He sat down on the third step from the top. He set the paper plate on his knees. He pulled the sketchbook out of his Spider-Man backpack. He started to draw. Geneva Whitcomb was sitting on her sun porch 60 feet away. She had been reading a Patricia Cornwell novel. She heard the slide of the door. She looked up. She told me later, "I taught 3rd grade for 40 years. I know what a humiliated child looks like sitting alone." She took 14 photographs over the next 51 minutes. She took 2 short videos, 3 minutes, then 6. She also kept the audio on the second video running. Through the open kitchen window behind Theo, you can hear my mother's voice from the dining room. You can hear her propose a toast. To, in her words, "This beautiful family the Lord has built around us." At 1:08, the sliding door opened. Aunt Marielle came out. She was carrying a piece of pie on a small saucer. She set it down on the step beside Theo. She said, "Eat this, baby." From inside the house, my mother called, "Marielle, dear, can you help me with the silver service?" Aunt Marielle hesitated. She touched Theo's hair. She went back inside. Theo looked at the pie. He did not eat it. He told me later that if he ate it, it would mean Grandma was right. So he didn't. At 1:33, my mother slid the door open and said in her warmest voice, "Theo, sweetheart, your mom's here. Time to go home. Did you have a nice lunch?" He nodded. 8-year-olds also learn to lie so their mothers don't get hurt. When I picked him up from the front porch, my mother hugged me quickly and said, "We had the loveliest time, dear." Theo walked past me to the car. He buckled himself in. He did not say anything. We drove home on Roswell Road. I stopped at the red light at Marietta Street. I looked at him in the rearview mirror. He was holding the edge of his Spider-Man backpack so hard that the safety pin had punctured his fingertip. There was a small drop of blood on the navy fabric. He did not feel it. "Theo, baby," I said. "Did everything go okay?" For 6 seconds he said nothing. Then his voice, very small. "Mom, why does Grandma hate me?" The light turned green. I did not move. The driver behind me honked once. I did not answer him in the car. I did not trust my voice. I drove home in silence. I parked in our lot. I unbuckled him. I lifted off his backpack and saw the blood. I went into the apartment, pulled out the Iron Man Band-Aid we keep for scrapes, and wrapped his finger. He climbed into my lap on the couch. His whole body was shaking the way small bodies shake when they have been holding in a feeling for too long. He whispered it again, into my collarbone. "Mom, why does Grandma hate me?" I held him. I did not answer. I waited until his breath slowed. Then I lifted him off my lap and laid him down on the couch with our navy fleece blanket. I walked 3 steps to the dining table. I picked up the olive leather binder. I looked down at him. He was watching me. I said the only true thing I have ever said in that apartment. "Baby, Grandma is about to lose everything she loves most." He did not ask me what I meant. He just nodded once. The way a child nods when his mother has finally decided to stand up. I picked up my phone. I did not call my mother. I did not text my sister. I texted Miss Verity Brennan, Theo's school counselor. We had spoken once before gently, after Theo's father missed 3 weekend visits in a row. Verity had told me, "Sienna, if there is ever a Sunday you need me to take him for a few hours, just ask." I asked. She wrote back in 90 seconds. "Drop him at my place at 10. Boomer and I will have him at the park." I put down my phone. I walked into the kitchen. I made tomato soup the way my father used to make it. 3 cans of San Marzano, 1 stick of butter, 1 whole onion he sliced too thick on purpose because he said thin onions were a kind of lie. Theo ate the soup. He fell asleep on the couch with our Calvin and Hobbes book open on his chest. I sat down at the table. I opened the olive leather binder. I had read what was inside it 4 times since March 15th. The day Edmund Garrison's paralegal handed it to me across his desk. I had memorized the page numbers. I had memorized the names of the SunTrust branches. I had memorized the exact wording of the May 14th, 2019 ledger entry. But I needed to read the letter one more time. 3 pages. My father's handwriting. Blue navy ink. The last paragraph said this: Sienna, by the time you read this, you will already know whether she stole. If you are reading this at all, it means she did. Don't go to court. Go to the people who built her image. They will do the rest. And tell your mother to read out loud the first page when you go. I closed the binder. I opened a green olive notebook, the same kind my father had used for his ledger, and I drew 6 lines down a page. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, Day 4, Day 5, Day 6. The next family brunch was 7 days away. I wrote at the top of the page, drop, walk out, no speech, let the paper speak. At the bottom of the page, I wrote one name and crossed it out and wrote it again, and crossed it out again, and finally wrote it one more time and circled it. Roman. At 11:47 that night, I called Geneva Whitcomb. She answered on the 3rd ring. She said, "Sweetheart, I was hoping you would call." Monday morning at 9, I drove to Geneva Whitcomb's house. She lives in a 1971 brick ranch on the same cul-de-sac as my mother's house. The 2 yards share a low hedge of liriope. Geneva makes shortbread on Tuesdays. She has buried 2 husbands and 1 son. She had laid out her iPhone on the kitchen table when I walked in. Beside it was a yellow legal pad with 2 pages of handwritten notes. She poured me coffee. She did not ask if I wanted any. Time-stamped, she said. 14 photographs, 2 videos, 3 minutes and 6 minutes. I wrote down what I heard your mother say at the table because the kitchen window was open. I wrote down the exact words. I wrote down the time. She slid the legal pad across the table. The top line read, 12:14 p.m. v. Preston, dining room, to her grandson Theo. The dining table is for grandchildren who actually belong in this family. You can take your paper plate to the back steps. That's where the extras eat. The line below it read, Theo's age, by my count, 8 years old. Geneva watched me read it. Honey, she said, I should have done something on Sunday. I watched it on my phone. I thought somebody would go out there. Nobody did. I am sorry. That is one of the regrets I will take with me. I told her she was doing it now. That she was the one going out there now. That was what mattered. She nodded. She looked at her hands. One more thing, she said. Sunday afternoon, around 3:30, after you had picked your boy up, I was emptying my own trash. I saw your mother walk out of her side door with a kitchen garbage bag. A small one. She walked it all the way down to the Whitlock's bin at the bottom of the cul-de-sac. Not to her own bin, to theirs. I waited. The Whitlocks were on vacation. Their bin had not been pulled in. Your mother put the bag in their bin and walked back. I have a photograph. It is time-stamped 3:34. I asked her what was in the bag. She said, I went and looked the next morning. Their bin had not been picked up yet. The bag was on top. It had Theo's paper plate inside. The hydrangea pattern. Ham still on it. Cheese still on it. The pie Marielle gave him. Untouched. And a plastic cup. She paused. She separated his garbage from her garbage, Sienna. She did not want her own grandchildren's lunch in her own can. She made it disappear. I sat very still for a long time. Then I told Geneva to put that statement and the photograph of the bag and a description of what was in it into a typed document and to go to her own notary on Tuesday morning and to have it stamped. She said she would. Driving home, I checked my phone at a red light. A text from Tatum had come in. Mom said Theo asked to eat outside because he was warm. LOL. Cute. Wanted air. He's such an introvert lately. Totally fine. Have a good week. I checked the weather app. Marietta, Sunday, 12 to 2 p.m. High of 77, sunny, light wind. Not a humid day, not a sticky day. A perfect Georgia spring Sunday. Not the kind of day an 8-year-old says, I would like to eat alone on hot concrete instead of in air conditioning. I screenshot the text. I screenshot the weather. Folder labeled receipts. iCloud sync on. Folder count, 33. My mother's Facebook went up at 1:15 that afternoon. A short reel. Hadley laughing with Easton over a glass of lemonade. Bryson's hand in the corner of the frame. The caption read, Blessed Sunday with my Preston Grands #family first #blessed grandma. Theo was not in the frame. I screenshot it. Monday evening at 7:40, my Instagram lit up. A direct message from Holland Preston Wakefield, my distant cousin. Holland is 33. Her husband Garrett works in commercial real estate. They had been at Sunday brunch. I had spoken to Holland maybe 4 times in my life. Her message was long. 5 paragraphs. Sienna, I don't know if you remember me well, but I was at Sunday brunch. What Vivi said about Theo, I can't sleep. Garrett told me to stay out of it, but I won't. I should have stood up. I should have walked outside with him. I am 33 years old and I sat there. I am sorry. I will testify to anything. To anyone. Here is my number. The second screenshot she sent me arrived 3 minutes later. It was a text Vivian had sent Holland in February. 2 months before any of this. 2 months before the back steps. Holland, sweetie. Please don't bring Theo up at brunch. Sienna's been so unstable since the divorce. We're all walking on eggshells. My mother had been laying the foundation since February. I screenshot Holland's message. I screenshot the screenshot. Receipts, 35. On Tuesday morning, I sat at my kitchen table and pulled up my photo library. I scrolled back to March 24th, 2024. Theo's 6th birthday. I had taken 100 photographs that day. Theo with his cake. Theo on a slip and slide in my mother's backyard. Tatum and her 3 children gathered in the kitchen. Aunt Marielle reading the newspaper at the table. And then, at 4:11 in the afternoon, I had taken one I had never zoomed in on. My father, August, sitting on the back porch in a wine-colored cardigan. The only cardigan he could still wear in his last year because he had lost so much weight from the cancer. He was leaning forward in the chair. His hand was holding Theo's hand. He was pressing a folded $20 bill into my son's palm. In the background, on the coffee table inside the porch, was a craft paper envelope. The handwriting on the front was my father's. 2 letters. 2 periods. T-O-E-G. Edmund Garrison. He had been packaging the truth in his hands the same afternoon he had been pressing $20 into his only grandson's fingers. I sat in front of that photograph for a long time. Then I called Edmund Garrison's office and made an appointment for Thursday at 10. I want to tell you about my father. August Preston was a structural engineer for 38 years. He built parking decks. He built bridges over small creeks. He built 2 community college buildings in Cobb County that have his initials inside the cornerstone, where nobody will ever see them. He kept a ledger, a leather-bound one, 612 pages. He hand-numbered every page in the bottom right corner. He started it in 1986, the year I was born, and he wrote the last entry in it on July 14th, 2024, 4 days before he died. Every page recorded a financial decision, a check written, a check received, a note about a person. On page 204, dated 1989, he wrote, "Never trust a handshake, always trust a photograph." He had learned that lesson the hard way. A business partner that year had stolen $26,000 from him on a job in Roswell. My father had a handshake agreement. He had no paperwork. He spent 8 months in small claims court and won back $14,000. He never trusted his own ear after that. He trusted his own camera. For 35 years, my father photographed the back of every cashier's check he ever wrote. On page 587, dated May 14, 2019, he wrote, "Started monthly $625 to Sienna for Theo. Wells Fargo joint cashier's check. V requested P.O. box at her sister's address. Claims tax simplicity. Will verify in 6 months." Theo had been 14 months old. I had never seen one of those checks. I had never known they existed. For 5 years, 2 months, and 1 week, my father sent $625 every month to my son. He paid the rent of my unspoken grief. He paid for the things I would not let myself want. He paid for the summer camp Theo never went to, and the after-school art class he never enrolled in. My mother told everyone, including me, that he had stopped helping us after my divorce. She told me it was because I had embarrassed the family. She told the aunts it was because I refused to accept their love. She told my father, when he asked, that I had requested distance. She forwarded his checks to her sister's house. She lifted them out of my Aunt Holly's mailbox each month. She drove them 20 miles to a SunTrust branch in Buckhead, a branch where no teller knew her, where the tellers changed often, and she endorsed them. She wrote on the back of every single one of them the name Sienna L. Preston. My middle name is Marielle. I am named after my Aunt Marielle. My sister's middle name is Louise. My mother has called my sister Tatum Lou her entire life. My mother could not write my middle name on the back of a forged check because she did not know my middle name. In March of 2023, my father had a small stroke. The doctors warned him that a second one would likely kill him. He had 2 warnings. That month, on page 591 of his ledger, he wrote, "Math does not add up. Sienna does not know about the monthly. 6 years and she has never thanked me. She is not the kind of woman who would not thank. She does not know. Verify." That month, he changed his method. Instead of writing personal checks from his joint account with my mother, he began walking into the SunTrust branch in Marietta every 4th Thursday and purchasing a cashier's check for $625. He photographed the front of the check. He photographed the back of the check, the blank, unwritten back. He kept the photographs on his iPad. He brought the check home and asked my mother to mail it for him. He told her he was too tired to drive to the post office. She told him she would mail it. She never did. She kept doing what she had been doing, driving them to Aunt Holly's address, picking them up, driving them to Buckhead, endorsing them. He photographed each one before he handed it to her. 14 months, 14 checks, 14 sets of photographs. She did not know about the photographs. On Theo's 6th birthday, the day in March, the day of the craft envelope, my father called my son out to the back porch. He pressed the $20 into his hand. He whispered something into his ear. I had not heard what he said. Theo told me that night, in his bedroom, while I was tucking him in. Grandpa said this is just the small one, Mom. He said the big one he sends you every month. I had laughed it off. I had told Theo that Grandpa was getting older and sometimes Grandpa got the months confused. That was the worst sentence I have ever spoken to my son. My father died 96 days later. A second stroke. He was 73. He was at home. My mother called 911. She held his hand. She wept in the ambulance. She wore black to his funeral. She read the eulogy. She had stolen $38,750 from his only grandson over 5 years and 2 months. She had no idea he knew. If you have ever had a grandparent who saw you when no one else did, type the word witnessed in the comments. I read every one, and if you can guess what was on the next page of my father's envelope, The page that made Roman Whitlock pick up the phone before I even asked him to. Write your guess below. I will tell you in a few minutes whether you were right. On Thursday morning, the second day after the back steps, I drove to Edmund Garrison's office in downtown Marietta. Edmund was 68. He had been my father's lawyer for 26 years. His office was on the second floor of a 1920s building above a sandwich shop. There was a paralegal in the front office named Renata Foley, who had worked for Edmund for 19 years. She remembered my birthday. She had sent Theo a Christmas card every year of his life. Edmund met me at the door. He shook my hand the way my father used to, with both of his. "Sienna," he said, "come sit down. I have one more thing for you." He had given me the manila envelope on March 15th. I had asked him on March 10th, after I had finally opened a shoebox of my father's papers and found a SunTrust statement I could not explain. He had given me the envelope with the words, "Your father said to wait until you asked. He said you would, eventually." But there was one more thing. He set a small red USB drive on the desk between us. It was labeled, in Dymo tape, in my father's handwriting, August P. Vault. "He gave me this in May of 2024, Edmund said, 2 months before he died. He said, Eddie, if she ever asks me where the money went, play her the May one first." I asked what was on it. 4 audio files, Edmund said, recorded in his own home. In Georgia, you may record any conversation you are a party to. He was a party to all 4. They are admissible in any forum he intended them for. He was very clear about that. He said the file labeled May 2024 is the one that ends it. I took the USB drive. I drove home. Theo was at after-school care. I sat at the kitchen table. I plugged the USB into my laptop. I clicked the file May_2024_VP_call.mp3. I heard my father's voice for the first time since his funeral. "Vivi," he said, "where did the May check go? Don't lie to me." There was a pause. The refrigerator hummed in the background. The same refrigerator that hummed in the kitchen of the house he built her. I knew the sound. "August," my mother said. "I really don't appreciate this tone." "Vivi," he said again. "Where did the May check go?" "Sienna doesn't want our help anymore. She told me last month at the grocery store." "Vivi, I saw Sienna last week. We talked for an hour at her apartment. She never told me that." "Well, she implied it." "Vivi, the May check was deposited at SunTrust Buckhead branch. Sienna does not bank at SunTrust. Sienna does not bank in Buckhead. Whose signature is on the back?" A long pause. "August, you are sick. You are confused." "I am sick. I am not confused. I have every one of them photographed, Vivi. Every back. Every signature. They do not match the signature on her driver's license. They do not match the signature on her tax returns." "August, I really..." "Sienna's middle name is Marielle. You have been signing Sienna L. Preston for 5 years. L is your other daughter." The recording was 11 minutes long. I listened to all of it. When it ended, I did not move for a full minute. The refrigerator at my own kitchen counter was humming. I looked at it. I looked at my hands on the laptop. I wiped my face with the back of my wrist. I had not realized I was crying. I clicked open the next folder on the USB. Backs_of_checks_2019_2024. 62 photographs. 48 of them showed my forged signature on the back. The L was my mother's autopilot. The L was the slip that nobody, including her, had ever noticed. I scrolled to photograph 38. The check was dated September 14th, 2022. I checked my own calendar against the date. On September 14th of that year, I had been in Northside Cherokee Hospital with severe food poisoning. I had spent the night in an observation room. I had not signed anything that day. I had not been to a bank that day. I had been on an IV drip. The signature was on the back of the check anyway. I opened the third folder on the USB, a single PDF. It was a notarized statement from a woman named Patricia Cornelius, age 71, Aunt Holly's next-door neighbor. The seal was August 11th, 2023. She had written, "I never opened any mail." But I noticed because the envelopes were always the same buff color and the same handwriting. They came monthly. I once asked August Preston's wife if she was forwarding them to her daughter. She told me to mind my business. I am writing this statement at the request of August Preston, who came to my door in July of 2023 with a notary and asked me to put on paper what I had seen with my own eyes. The signature at the bottom was a careful school teacher's signature. The notary stamp from Cobb County was small and brown. I picked up my phone. I called my Uncle Wendell in Athens, Georgia. Wendell is my father's younger brother. He is 69. He had not spoken to my mother in 8 years. Nobody in the family had ever told me why. He picked up on the second ring. He said, "I have been waiting for this phone call for 2 years. We talked for 23 minutes. He told me my father had called him 3 weeks before the second stroke. He told me my father had said, 'When?' If I'm right about Vivi, Sienna will figure it out eventually. When she does, you tell her every story I ever told you. Don't soften any of it." He told me the stories. 8 years of small thefts. 8 years of money missing from joint accounts that my mother always had an explanation for. 8 years of Wendell asking my father to leave her, and my father saying he could not. Not because he loved her, but because she would burn down everything if he tried. I hung up the phone. I stared at the wall for a long time. Then I picked the phone back up and I called Roman Whitlock. I had not called Roman in 11 years. I had his number because Theo's pediatrician's office had once asked for a family emergency contact. He picked up on the third ring. He said, "Sienna." I said, "Roman, your wife and her mother have been spending money that did not belong to them for 5 years. I have proof. I would rather you see it before I tell anyone else." There was a 4-second silence. Then he said, "I have wondered for 2 years why the inheritance fund wasn't on any of August's estate papers. Send me the file. I'll come to you." I sent him the file at 5 p.m. on Thursday. He came to my apartment at 6. He stayed for an hour and 40 minutes. He looked at every page. He did not ask me to repeat anything. He did not get angry in front of me. He did not promise me anything. When he stood up to leave, he said, "Sienna, I am bringing my mother to brunch on Sunday." He did not ask my permission. He stated a fact. On Wednesday afternoon, my mother had posted on Facebook, "Family is everything. Sometimes you have to love from a distance when others can't accept the love you give. Praying for healing always. Hashtag blessed. Grandma, hashtag family first." 89 people liked it. 14 people commented their support. Aunt Marielle did not comment. Holland Preston Wakefield commented one word. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. Reverend Nolan Calloway, the senior pastor of First Baptist of Marietta. "Sienna," he said. "Vivian came to me this morning, very concerned about a family situation. I just want to listen if you need to talk." I knew this play. She was building the story in advance. She was setting the stage so that when the receipts dropped, she could call it a misunderstanding and her people would already be defending her. I said, "Reverend Calloway, thank you for calling. I would like to schedule a meeting with you for next Wednesday. Please bring a notebook. I will be the one talking, and I'd like you to write it down." He paused. He was confused. "That's fine, Sienna. I will see you next Wednesday." I did not explain. Inside 24 hours, 3 aunts called me. Aunt Marielle called first. She said, "Sienna, baby, I don't know what your mother did at brunch. I left early. But if you need me, I am here." I told her thank you. I told her to stay home on Sunday. I told her I would tell her everything by Tuesday. Aunt Cordelia called second, Wendell's wife. She said, "Wen seemed shaken after talking to you. Be careful with whatever you're planning." I told her thank you. I told her I would be very careful. Aunt Holly called third, my mother's sister. She said, "Sienna, honey, I don't know what you found, but your mother has done so much for this family. Don't tear us apart." I waited 5 seconds. Then I said, "Aunt Holly, I never said I found anything." The pause on her end was 3 seconds long. Well, your mother mentioned, "I will see you Sunday, Aunt Holly. Bring an open mind." I hung up. Receipts? 41. On Friday morning, Roman emailed me a spreadsheet. It was an Excel file, 4 years long. He had been keeping it on his own, quietly, since 2022. Every quarter, my mother had transferred money from what she called the Preston Family Scholarship Trust into a joint account she shared with my sister. From that joint account, my sister had paid Lovett's school tuition, Bryson's Olympic track gymnastics, $4,200 per year for 3 years, Hadley's equestrian camp, $3,900 per summer, Easton's private piano lessons, $2,800 per year, the Whitlock family Disney vacation in 2022, $5,830, the family Disney vacation in 2023, $6,140, and a beach week at Sea Island every August, $3,400 for the rental. Over 4 years, $87,400. Some of that had come from Roman's own earnings, money he had put into the joint account assuming it was being layered with the so-called scholarship trust. The trust was not real. There was no fund named in my father's will. There was no fiduciary. There were no statements. There was no lawyer associated. My mother had invented an estate. She had used Theo's stolen money as the seed corn. She had layered Roman's money over it. She had handed it to her favorite daughter and her favorite grandchildren. Roman had been asking Tatum to see the trust paperwork for 3 years. Tatum kept telling him Vivian's estate lawyer was still organizing things. I printed the spreadsheet. I circled 14 rows where the source field read from VP Trust. The dates matched, month for month, my father's photographs. I sat down on Friday night and printed 7 complete file packages. Each one contained a 1-page cover letter, 14 photographs of forged checkbacks, transcripts of the 4 audio recordings, a printout of Geneva Whitcomb's notarized statement, a printout of Patricia Cornelius's notarized statement, the ledger page from August's notebook, Roman's spreadsheet, a CDR with the May 2024 audio, and a duplicate USB drive. 6 of them I addressed for first-class mail. I dropped them in the blue mailbox outside the Marietta post office at 4 p.m. on Friday. They were timed to arrive Monday morning when the post office reopened, 24 hours after Sunday brunch. The 7th I put in a canvas olive tote bag. On Saturday, I took Theo to the East Cobb branch of the Cobb County Public Library. We read picture books for an hour. We checked out 4. We had grilled cheese sandwiches at the deli next door. We went home and watched an old Pixar movie I had loved as a child, and he loved as a child too. He fell asleep on the couch. I sat in the kitchen until midnight. The olive tote was on the chair beside me. At 9 a.m. on Sunday, May 3rd, Miss Verity Brennan arrived at our door wearing a navy flannel shirt and holding a coffee. She had a beagle named Boomer on a blue leash. Boomer wagged his tail at Theo with the entire force of his body. Theo lit up. Verity hugged me. She did not ask any questions. She said, "We'll be at Soap Creek Park. Call me when you want him back." I watched them walk out to her car together. Theo turned and waved. The safety pin on his Spider-Man backpack glinted in the morning sun. I waved back. Then I went inside, picked up the olive tote, and drove the 14 miles. I pulled into my mother's driveway at 11:08. The Range Rover was there, Tatum's car. A black Lexus sedan I did not recognize. Roman's, I realized. Behind it, a maroon Cadillac. Felicity Whitlock's. Roman's mother had arrived first. I sat in my car for 1 minute. I looked at the steering wheel. I looked at my hands on it. I thought of my son drawing comic books at the kitchen table at home, with a beagle pressed against his leg. Then I got out, walked up the brick path, and rang the doorbell. My mother opened the door wearing a cream cardigan with a hydrangea brooch. She had been preparing to give a junior league scholarship speech after brunch. Her hair was set. Her lipstick was on. She saw the olive tote in my hand. Her face went through 3 expressions in 1 second. Surprise. Recalculation. The smile. Sienna, what a surprise. We didn't expect. Is everything all right? I did not answer. I walked past her. I walked into the dining room. 14 adults looked up. 2 of them were people who had not been at brunch the previous Sunday. Roman in a charcoal blazer, and his mother Felicity in pale yellow with a strand of pearls. Felicity locked eyes with me. She nodded once. I set the olive tote down at the head of the table, not at my old seat by the kitchen pass-through, at the head, the seat my mother always sat at. I took out the manila envelope. I put it down in front of her. I looked at the table, at Aunt Marielle. Her teacup paused halfway to her mouth. At Hadley, who set her phone face down on her placemat for the first time in a year of brunches. At Tatum, whose lips had gone white. I said the sentence my father had written into his last letter. Mom, read the first page out loud. The grandfather clock in the corner struck 11:13. My mother forced a small laugh. Her chin moved a 1/4 inch. Sienna, she said, this is so dramatic. Let's all sit down. Felicity Whitlock stood up at her end of the table. Felicity is 66. She is from Charleston. Her voice has the quiet steel of a woman who has buried her father, her brother, and a husband, and who knows the cost of letting men explain things. She said, Vivienne, your daughter asked you to read the first page. I will read it for you if you will not. My mother's mouth opened. It closed. Felicity walked the length of the dining room. She picked up the envelope. She opened it. She slid out the first page. She began to read. On May 14th, 2019, August Preston initiated a series of monthly cashier's checks in the amount of $625 each, designated for the care and education of his grandson, Theo Walker Preston. Aunt Marielle set her teacup down on the saucer with a soft clink. Felicity continued, between May 2019 and July 2024, August issued 62 such checks. Total amount issued, $38,750. Total amount received by the intended beneficiary's mother or guardian, 0. The room went silent in the way a room goes silent when a guest at the other end of the table realizes the host is bleeding. My mother said with effort, August was sick at the end. He was confused. These don't mean anything. I opened my laptop on the buffet. I said, then let's let him speak for himself, Mom. Let's play the May 2024 call. I clicked play. My father's voice came out of my laptop speakers and filled the room he had built her. Vivi, where did the May check go? Don't lie to me. The refrigerator behind us. The same refrigerator on the recording, 12 feet from where we were standing, hummed at the same pitch. My mother sat down in her chair. She did not slide down. She did not collapse. She lowered herself slowly the way a woman lowers herself onto a pew when she has come into a church she no longer believes in. The recording continued. My father identifying the SunTrust branch. My father identifying the forged signature. My father saying my middle name aloud. Tatum jerked forward from her chair, reaching for the laptop. Roman's hand closed around her wrist. He did not raise his voice. Tatum. Don't. She froze. Felicity Whitlock, still standing, finished page 1. She lifted page 2. On photograph 38, dated September 14th, 2022, the endorsement reads, Sienna L. Preston. Sienna Preston's middle name is Marielle. Sienna Preston was hospitalized with severe food poisoning at Northside Cherokee Hospital from September 13th through September 15th, 2022. She did not sign anything that week. Aunt Marielle began to cry softly. She did not wipe her eyes. She let them run. Holland Preston Wakefield stood up from her chair. She walked the length of the room and stood behind me. She did not say a word. She put her hand on my shoulder. Felicity turned to my mother. Vivienne, she said, I would like to ask you one question. Did you spend my son's money believing it was inheritance? Because that is what he told me last night, and that is why I am here. My mother did not answer. She stared at the open laptop on the buffet. The refrigerator on the recording was still humming. My father, on the recording, was still calmly listing dates. I stepped forward. I picked up the laptop. I closed it. I looked at the room. I am leaving copies of this file with everyone here. There are 6 more copies in the mail to family members and church leaders who could not be here today. They will arrive tomorrow morning. Aunt Marielle, Uncle Wendell, Reverend Calloway, the Junior League Executive Board, and 2 attorneys will all have a copy by 10 a.m. You have until then to decide what to say. I picked up my tote. I looked at my mother. I am going home to my son. I walked out through the same sliding glass door Theo had walked out of 7 days earlier. I walked across the back lawn. I walked around the side of the house to my car. If you have heard a story this far and felt anything tighten in your chest, please remember this. The people who tell you family is everything are sometimes the same people who define family by who they can use. Real family is who keeps a chair for you when the room runs out. If you have a person like that in your life, tell them today. They might need to hear it more than you know. I drove home. I picked Theo up from the park. Boomer, the beagle, had fallen asleep across his lap on the bench. Verity smiled at me and said nothing. In the car, Theo asked me how brunch was. I told him I did not stay for brunch. I told him I had come home to be with him. He nodded. He held my hand the whole way back. The first call came at 6:58 on Tuesday morning. Aunt Marielle. She was crying. She said, Sienna, your father told me 3 times to keep an eye on her. I thought he meant emotionally. I should have asked what he really meant. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. She drove to my apartment that afternoon. She brought a shoebox of photographs. It was full of pictures of my father at 28 years old. Standing at a Sunday dinner table I had never seen before. The table of his own parents, my grandparents who had died before I was born. On the back of one photograph, in my father's careful handwriting, first family table I ever sat at. Everyone got a chair. Marielle put her hand on mine. He always wanted that for you, baby. The second call came that evening. Camille Westbrook, chairwoman emerita of the Marietta Junior League. She had received the package in the morning mail. She did not ask if I was sure. She did not ask me how I felt. She said, Sienna, the executive board will convene an emergency session on Wednesday evening. We will keep you informed. On Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., 13 women of the Marietta Junior League sat in a Zoom meeting. My mother was on the call. She was given a chance to speak. She said the recordings had been doctored. She said my father had not been of sound mind. She said I had a history of mental instability. Reverend Calloway, who had a copy of the file, was also on the call as an observer. The board voted 10-2. My mother abstained from voting for her own removal. She was asked to step down from the chair, from every committee, from every public role. The letter went out the next morning on letterhead with a gold foil seal. Thursday afternoon, Reverend Calloway met with my mother for 52 minutes. I learned the length later from his secretary, who timed it. When the meeting ended, Reverend Calloway emailed me directly. Sienna, Vivian and I have agreed she will step away from her deacon supporting role indefinitely. The decision is mutual. I am praying for your family and grateful you trusted me to handle this with discretion. I have spoken with our Bible study leaders. Theo will always be welcome in our children's programs. I would be honored to baptize him in time, if you ever choose that path. He attached a small card. The card said, "For Theo." Inside was a single line of Psalms, not preached at me, just acknowledged. I cried for the first time since Sunday at the back steps. I cried alone in the kitchen at 11 p.m. with the dishwasher running. Friday morning, Roman Whitlock filed for separation, not divorce. Not yet. He asked Tatum to repay $38,750 from her own inheritance, a small fund she had received from her maternal grandmother that had nothing to do with our father. Felicity made the same request, formally. Tatum complied within the week. Hadley, Bryson, and Easton would be transferred from Lovett School to Cobb County Public Schools for the fall. Roman texted me on Friday afternoon. One line. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. If Theo ever needs an uncle, even just lunch, I'm here. Saturday morning at 10, Wendell Preston drove the 75 miles down from Athens. He came up the stairs to my apartment with a cardboard box in his hands. Inside the box was a second ledger, one my father had kept secretly, that he had given to Wendell to hold so that my mother could never find it. Inside the box was the wine-colored cardigan from the porch on Theo's 6th birthday. The button at the top still hanging by a thread the way it had been the day my father wore it last. Wendell set the box on my dining table. He looked at me. I haven't talked to Vivi in 8 years, he said. I think you just told me why I was right. He held me for a long moment in the doorway. Then he said, You are more like him than anyone. Edmund Garrison called me at 1:15 on the following Wednesday. He said, Sienna, there is one account I have not yet transferred. Your father opened it in January of 2020 at SunTrust, a UTMA custodial account for Theo, with you as custodian. He did not put it in your name when he died because he did not want your mother to discover it through probate. I asked the number. He read it. The last 4 digits are 0318. Theo's birthday is March 18th. The balance, Edmund said, was $13,200. He told me what my father had told him in May of 2024. If she ever finds out everything, this is the trip money. Tell her to spend it on the boy. I drove home and sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes. I did not cry. I smiled at the steering wheel like a person who has finally been told a long story she only half believed. That night, I waited until Theo had fallen asleep. Then I picked up his sketchbook, Captain Pebble number 14, and turned to the page where I had once seen him slip a small folded thing. There it was, the $20 bill, folded in quarters. Date in his own handwriting in pencil at the corner. From Grandpa, March 18th, 2024. I unfolded it. I held it for a long time. Then I drove to Target and bought him a new sketchbook. 200 pages. Olive green cover, the exact shade of my father's ledger. I bought him a navy blue backpack, Grandpa's color. Sturdy zippers, padded straps, the kind of backpack that does not need a safety pin. I came home. I took the safety pin off the Spider-Man backpack. I dropped it in the kitchen trash without ceremony. I taped the $20 bill to the inside back cover of his new olive sketchbook. I wrote across the top of the first page in my own handwriting. From Grandpa and from me. draw everything. The next morning, I enrolled Theo in the High Museum Summer Studio, 6 weeks of cartoon drawing taught by a former Marvel illustrator. Tuition was $1,800. I paid it directly out of account 0318. When I told Theo at breakfast, he set down his cereal spoon. He looked at me. Mom, is this real? Are you sure? I'm sure, baby. Grandpa was sure. He cried a little. He did not let me see it. He turned toward the window and wiped his face with the back of his hand and pretended he was looking at a bird. I let him pretend. On the way home from the comic store with his new sketch